Pfizer made nearly $37 billion in sales from its COVID vaccine last year, making it one of the most lucrative products in history. They're projected to make even more in 2022, with a big boost coming from its COVID-19 pill Paxlovid, which is, people are saying, similar to, it's their Pfizer Mectin, right? So, of course, they've made a giant amount of money on a vaccine that does not stop the spread, that does not stop you from getting COVID. So now that you are still going to get COVID, even after taking their vaccine that the government paid, that we, the taxpayers, paid for, well, you're still going to get COVID. So now you've got to take this Paxlovid, right? So, of course, they're going to be making a bunch of money, because after getting the governments to force everybody to take the vaccine, that doesn't stop you from getting COVID. Now, when you do get COVID, because you're freaked out of your mind, because everybody in the media has been telling you that you're going to definitely die from COVID, which is why you definitely needed the vaccine, because if you didn't, then not only were you going to die, but you were going to kill other people. So, of course, you're frightened out of your mind. So, of course, you're going to run to the doctor and get yourself some Paxlovid when you do finally come down with COVID. The drug maker's overall revenues in 2021 doubled to more than $81 billion, and it expects to make record revenues of anywhere from $98 to $102 billion this year. This is so gross. Big Pharma, and everybody was championing it, saying, well, everybody's got to do this because Big Pharma said so. Like, when did you begin trusting them? You know that they're just out to make a bunch of money. And it gets worse, because Pfizer now is appearing to anticipate some bad news, as evidenced by several red line changes in their Q4 earnings releases. Look at this here. They specifically honed in on how the quality of their clinical trials could affect their earnings in the future. The changes center around disclosures of unfavorable safety data. They added to the possibility of unfavorable new data, quote, further information regarding the quality of preclinical, clinical, or safety data, including by audit or inspection, would potentially be a problem for their bottom line. So, after convincing the government and buying advertisements and ensuring that the media were all on board with everybody vaccinate, because that's our way out of the pandemic, which did not happen, as we know. So everybody vaccinate, and they were saying to us, because it's going to stop the spread, you're going to kill somebody else if you don't take it, you're going to kill yourself, right, if you don't take it. After all of that, and now then having to, so before they even start pushing the pill, just the fact that they were pushing the vaccine and the governments were pushing the vaccine, and now they're saying, ooh, we might see kind of a down, we're expecting some negative news, because people are actually going to start looking into the data, and they're actually going to look at our clinical trial and our preclinical trial data, and they might not like what they see. Why wouldn't we like what we see, Pfizer? What is the issue? Now, this comes as Pfizer's trial data starts to be released. I'm sure you've heard about this. They're going to have to start releasing this data to the public. It's going to be released in response to a Freedom of Information Act request to the FDA. Last month, the Texas judge ruled that the FDA would have to turn over 55,000 pages of documentation on the vaccine on a per month basis starting in March. So you probably heard about this, because originally the pushback on it was, well, we have to go through all of this because you can't have our proprietary information. So it's going to take us forever, nearly forever, to go through the pages. So they were saying that they could only release a certain number of pages per month. And that number, when you calculated it all out, came out to 75 years it would take for them to release the 55,000 pages in documents that would cause us to scrutinize their clinical trial data. Well, a Texas judge then said, not so fast. We're not going to take 75 years. This information is necessary. People need it now. We don't need it in 75 years. And so the judge actually ruled that they have to release initially by the end of this month, 12,000 papers from the 55,000. And then they need to give us, the total number of pages is 450,000 total. So then what they have to do is release after the 12,000. They need to give 55,000 pages every month after that. And that means we will have all the data from the clinical trial within 9 months or so. By the end of this year, we'll have all of the data, unless Pfizer goes back to court or something and something changes. At this point, that is what we're expecting. So yeah, we'll be able to look at that clinical trial data. We'll be able to scrutinize it. And Pfizer's saying, crap, we're screwed. Our revenues are going to go down now because people are going to look into this. So that's the latest on that, which is really insane. And this, of course, comes as, what do you know? Pfizer has officially submitted data to the FDA to have vaccines approved for babies and kids under 6, which, of course, Fauci said could be approved as early as next month. Now, knowing all of this, are you going to trust the information? I mean, if Pfizer says, well, people are going to scrutinize our clinical trial data and they're going to scrutinize our preclinical trial data, and maybe it wasn't as great as people would expect it to be for this drug to be pushed through the FDA, would you then trust this product for your children or the data for your children if you don't even know if you can fully trust the data for even yourself? I mean, obviously you cannot trust the data for yourself, right? Because originally when this vaccine came out, maybe you took it thinking this is going to end the pandemic, it's going to stop the spread, and I'm going to be able to live my life and I'm not going to spread it to somebody else. And we now know that is not true. We now know that it actually doesn't seem to make any difference whatsoever on the spread of the virus, whether or not you're vaccinated. It's not seeming to make a difference at all. Now, people dispute that. And they say, no, your viral load is lower after like 7 days. But remember, now the CDC has come out saying, well, you're really only really contagious for 5 days. So if both a vaccinated person and an unvaccinated person are equally as contagious for the first 7 days, and then it drops off for the vaccinated person, what does it matter if really you're infectious for the 5 days? That's when you're really, truly infectious. So the two of you are walking around spreading the virus, vaccinated and unvaccinated, at equal levels. It doesn't matter. So we now know this because the virus has been spreading and it hasn't cared whether or not you're vaccinated. And so, in fact, Iceland actually reports higher rates of spread for both vaccinated children and adults at this point than unvaccinated children and unvaccinated adults. So that is the latest data in Iceland. Of course, that could maybe change, but at this point, and it's been consistent in this Omicron wave, where vaccinated people are getting it at slightly higher rates than the unvaccinated. So, think of that whatever you will. That's just actual factual information. So do with that what you would like. But would you then trust that they're being honest with the data for kids? Right now, we know that kids it's extremely rare for kids to have a negative effect on this, a negative side effect from the virus. So them then saying, no, this for sure is going to help your kid. How would we really even know that? What kind of clinical trial are they conducting? We know that for kids 5 to 12, when they were doing the data for that, what they did was they looked at mild illness, and they found that most of the kids were asymptomatic in both groups, so it was difficult for them to even really fully gauge whether or not the vaccine had a difference on 5 to 12-year-olds, because most everybody was asymptomatic, so vaccinated or not. So that, we'll see. We're definitely all looking very forward to the data dump from their clinical trials, and yeah, but this is just a disgusting amount of money that they've been able to make off of this pandemic. And I would say that looked like, I don't blame Big Pharma, right? They're a company trying to make money. And of course, I do think they were trying to actually help people. I don't doubt that. I don't think they were sinisterly trying to put out something that wasn't going to work. I just think that they probably didn't fully know whether or not it was going to work. And they said, yeah, and the government officials ran with that. And it really, I think the burden falls on our government more than it does on a private company. It's not really the private company's job to look after us. That's not their job. That's actually the government's job. The government's job is to look after we, the people, and protect us against big corporations that just want to make a bunch of money. But that's not what happened here. And at least that's what it's looking like. And then the FDA, which is also supposed to work on behalf of the people, seems to work on behalf of these pharmaceutical companies instead. And now here we are with Pfizer running off with a boatload of cash. And they're not the only ones. Moderna and others have made a fortune as well. But Pfizer in particular making the most. And here we are. And the truth is going to come out when we look at the data. What kind of data did they have before they went and not only approved it, but also then forced it on people? That's what inquiring minds want to know. All right, guys, if you have any comments, questions, please email me, kim@kimiverson.com. Also, join me on my locals page, my locals community. I am doing a live stream later today, so be sure to join me after I take a nap. I do need a nap. And then I'm going to go and live stream on locals, so be sure to watch that today if you are a member of my community there. And that link is down below. So thank you guys so much for watching.